Hey gang, Unitic here, also known as Logan. Here in my sister and brother-in-law's basement. It's Tuesday, December 17th, and I've been about a week now since I was hiking on the Appalachian Trail. I got home last Wednesday night and been hanging out with my family here, trying to get oriented and figure out what's next. The trip kind of ended pretty abruptly, and I thought I'd do a short video just kind of explaining what happened. And I'll do more of a epilogue video later that's been percolating in me for close to 1,900 miles as I pondered what I'd really like to try and communicate at the conclusion of this trip, after a lot of you all had had a chance to get to know me through these videos and through Facebook posts. But anyway, last Tuesday I was just a day back on the trail after my buddies had gone home from our little backpacking reunion, going up out of Hot Springs, North Carolina, up to a mountain called Max Patch. And my friends Keith and Mark were dropped me back off by Irwin, Tennessee, so I could finish about 3 days of hiking into Hot Springs, and then I would bypass what we had just done and start into the Smokies. I was planning on starting in the Smokies last Saturday, December 14th, and so I'd be right in the middle of them right now and have about 2 weeks left to go to finish the trek. About 300 miles total is left. And I had gotten up that first morning back on the trail. It was raining. I had just had a great reunion with some friends that I'd hiked with up in New England, the Georgia boys, and 3 UGA graduates. Hadn't seen them in a couple of months, and they came into the shelter I was staying at that night. And Django, who's a friend from my hometown. He's right here from Goshen, Kentucky, right outside of Louisville. And we had a great reunion, and then they hiked on the next morning. And as the morning wore on, the rain changed to snow, and I was climbing a mountain called Big Bald, trying to do about 21 miles that day. And about halfway through the day, I was a little over 10 miles. I stopped into this shelter kind of on the shoulders of Big Bald, and the snow had gotten really intense, and the wind was blowing sideways, and went into that shelter to get out of the wind, have some lunch, and get some water, and checked my cell phone and got a signal for the first time that day, and had a text message from my sister that old cuz here needed to have a living arrangement taken care of. Some dear friends had been fostering him for a couple of months while I'd been on the trail after my son went over to Japan, and he needed a new living arrangement. He just couldn't stay with them any longer for very good reasons. And so when I talked with her on the phone and kind of got clear on what was going on, it was almost immediately a no-brainer for me that I needed to come home and take care of him. You know, doing this whole trip was a new experience for me in really kind of following some, what on the surface may have seemed irrational, intuitive guidance. Selling your home, changing your life, quitting your job, selling your possessions, and kind of stepping off into the unknown. But that inner voice was really calling to me that this was something I needed to do, and I'm really grateful that I listened to it this time. It's a learning experience for me. And that inner voice was really strong last Tuesday too. My sister later in the day tried to actually give me some options for potentially kenneling cuz for that last 3 weeks, and you know, I knew right off the bat that was not what I was going to do. He wasn't going to be in a kennel for 3 weeks. You know, he needed me home, and I needed to be back with him. It was a little disappointing, but not greatly so. And the next day, I was back in Hot Springs after getting the shuttle off the trail. I hiked another 9 miles, got to a road crossing, and got back to this hostel and made bus arrangements out of Asheville to come home. And I called my friend David, who many of you all have seen in the early videos on the trip, and David was hugely influential in my being able to do this trip. He's been supporting me from the very beginning and has most of my remaining possessions stored in his basement. And I think many of you all realize that David had his own health challenge reoccur shortly after he got back from Maine when we climbed Katahdin together. And David was down in Houston starting a new treatment protocol. He'd just gotten there the day before, and I told him what had happened, and I shouldn't be surprised by this, but his response was every bit as uplifting as his response when I first shared this harebrained idea with him all the way last September, and the first words out of his mouth were, "How can I help?" And he said to me on the phone, he said, "Logan, maybe I'm supposed to hike that last 300 miles with you and finish what we started together." And as he said that, I just got this big smile on my face, and I said to him, "You know, David, maybe that's exactly what's supposed to happen." And then I had the thought that maybe even when that day comes, a lot of you all that have been watching these videos might even come and join us physically for part of that last stretch, maybe even just the last day up Springer Mountain. But also, with some preparation, maybe we could allow a lot of you to experience it virtually. Several people had contacted me, via the internet and asked what was the plan for the end of the trip. Was there going to be a celebration? Could they come? People even talking about driving multiple states to come down there and be a part of it. And we didn't really have that planned and arranged, and it probably wasn't going to be possible in the dead of winter in the middle of mountainous rural Georgia to have a bunch of people come and do a celebration. But when the time is right, when the universe says it's time to finish that last 300 miles, hopefully we could set up an opportunity that if people want to participate physically or virtually, that they can, and that would make me very, very, very happy. So I feel like I'll step onto that mountain when it's intended to happen, and it just wasn't meant to happen right now for a number of reasons. I want to thank everybody that helped support me, get me down that trail, and dozens upon dozens upon dozens of people have helped in myriad ways, and I wish I could thank each one of you personally, but hopefully you'll accept my sincere gratitude via video until we maybe get a chance to talk personally or meet personally. A lot of folks I'd love to meet that I've communicated with on this trail, a lot of trail angels that have helped me get to this point. So I followed my intuition and I came home, and in 2020 hindsight, that definitely was the right decision. I really thought I was past the worst of the Giardia, but apparently I'm not. I'm not quite sure if I've still got the infection or whether this is just from lingering stuff from the antibiotics I had to take. But if I was in the Smokies right now, I probably would be struggling because I've really had a hard time this last week, and have really appreciated having indoor plumbing and access to some friends and warm environments to sleep in, because my body definitely took a beating, especially over this last month. I'm not sure, it might be toxins that are building up in my body because I'm not processing nutrition well, and I'm probably not eliminating toxins very well, but the inflammation in my body has gotten a lot worse just in the last 4 or 5 days. My knees and my feet and my back, just a lot of pain and stiffness, and hiking probably would be pretty difficult right now. So I do believe all things happen in their own time and for a reason, and I'm just trying to stay present to what opportunities are in front of me now, including I want to figure out a way to stay active with the Lyme advocacy and hopefully take this momentum from this trip and trade on it and keep it moving forward. So I've got some ideas along those lines, going to be talking with some people that I've met virtually over the last 6 months here in the next week, and tossing out some of these ideas, trying to put some in writing on things that we could do together in 2014, and I'll share those with you as they become more fully formed. I am going to be doing a more detailed post-hike video, and I've made a commitment to a local group that I have been a member of for several years called the Louisville Esoteric Society to do a presentation in January for that group that in some way kind of distills my experience with this journey, Lyme disease, the Appalachian Trail, the metaphysics and personal insights that flowed from my experiences over the last couple of years. I got to sit down and try and organize all that into some kind of a coherent 90-minute presentation that also may form the outline of a potential book that I feel like is distilling in my consciousness and hopefully will start to flow as I try to wrap my brain around what's the next step for me. So right now I'm trying to figure out a place to live, at least for a period of time. I have some dear friends that have offered to put me up, and cuz too, for a while, and see if I can get my feet back under me here in Louisville, Kentucky for a bit, and see if some of these ideas start to take root and where that might take me in the country. I've had some other invitations from Lyme advocates to be a part of some of their activities in the coming year, and I really hope to take advantage of those. I got to figure out how to get some income coming in, so I'm trying to reach out to friends, professional colleagues here locally, and see about doing some consulting and contract work around nonprofit management, fundraising, public relations, and things that I have a background in. So I'll fill you in more on that as I kind of figure this stuff out. But for now, I'm safe. I'm hopefully on the road to recovery and getting past some of these symptoms and get some strength back and be able to apply my passion and my talents to something that really calls to me in 2014. And I'll keep you in the loop and hopefully share some of that with you guys moving forward. And sometime in January, as I get my mind map together on what I want to present at the Louisville Esoteric Society, I'll try and turn that into a video that I can share with you guys. It may be a little bit longer one, but hopefully of some value to you and definitely of some value to me. Because if you've got a truth on your heart, I've definitely learned there's nothing more liberating than just sharing it openly and honestly and releasing the need to control in your mind what people's reactions and responses are to that. My perspective is my own. It's based on my experience and my own personal research and seeking. I've definitely been a lifelong seeker, but much more so in the last 10 years, and particularly in the last 2 to 3. And I'll share that with you, and you can take what you like and leave the rest. But I've just been so gratified by how people have responded just to whatever I've tried to share on this trip. Some of which you may agree with, some of which you may not. But people have been really open-minded and supportive about one man's attempt to kind of live his truth, and I deeply, deeply appreciate that. And I hope that my illustration of following that intuition and just going with your heart, and sometimes even when it's in conflict with your head and the rational thought that tries to sometimes limit us, I'm going to do that more. Definitely. It's scary, but I'm going to listen to that inner guidance more and more with each passing year and see where it takes me. So for that, my buddy Cuz is happy to be reunited, and I am too, and I'm so happy to have all these new friends in my life, and many, many thanks and more to come. So for today, for 2013, almost 1,900 miles, 5 months on the trail, Unitic signing off one last time for 2013, and I'll see you in 2014. ET ANIMO, strength and courage, heart and soul. Thanks.